Martin McDonagh's latest film, Banshees of Inisherin, has received a very large amount of positive feedback, both from critics as well as fans, even though its slow reflective tone does not make for a typical viewing experience. In this video, I'm going to analyse the possible themes and meanings of the film. I'm going to try and answer the question of why did Colm stop talking to Parrot. I'm also going to try and explain who the mysterious old woman was and give my interpretation behind the film's ending. Inisherin is a small quiet island, and to me it seems as though anyone with any ambition has either left for the mainland or is planning to, and the people left behind are miserable, resentful and depressed. The island's police officer is a drunk who beats and abuses his son. The post office lady constantly gossips and talks about others and opens their mail. The island's priest is angry and self-righteous, and the only thing the island's inhabitants seem to be interested in is going to the local pub. They all have one thing in common, which is that they are to some degree depressed and unhappy with their lives. This is because there is nothing for them to do on the island. Due to its low population, even finding a partner with whom to start a family with is difficult, and everyone is just sitting around and waiting for death. And this is why Colm compares the island's residents to banshees when he tells Parrot about a song he plans on writing, Banshees of Inisherin. Parrot seems to be one of the few exceptions to this. He is a simple man, and for him, having a loving sister and a close friend with who he can go to the pub with has been enough for him not to become miserable and resentful like most of the other people on the island. This is something that Dominic, the police officer's son, has noticed, and he tells him that he is the only nice person left on the island. So this brings us to the question of why did Colm stop talking to Parrot? When we first see Colm, who lives by himself, he is sitting in his house just staring blankly at the floor. During one of the scenes, we also see a puppet hanging by the neck from the ceiling in his house, and I think it is clear that Colm is depressed and probably regrets the way his life has turned out. Someone once told me that being old and lonely is the worst thing in life, and this is a position that Colm finds himself in. However, I do not believe that Colm stopped talking to Parrot because he blames him for wasting his life or not doing with his life what he wanted, because throughout the film he shows that he still cares for Parrot. He does this when he helps him get home after Parrot is attacked by the police officer, and when he learns of Parrot's donkey's unfortunate death. He is genuinely saddened and feels sorry for Parrot. I also don't think that he genuinely believes he can become or genuinely wants to become a musician, nor do I think his attitude to Parrot is a consequence of him going crazy, even though cutting off his own fingers seems very extreme. I also don't think it is a consequence of him growing to resent and blame Parrot for wasting his life or not achieving what he now wishes he did. I think Colm's decision not to speak to Parrot is a completely selfless decision, and it is motivated by him wanting the best for his friend. Colm has become completely depressed. This is probably mostly due to the fact that he is alone and because of the fact that he regrets never leaving the island and following a dream or starting a family. He now sees where spending every day at the pub on the island will get you, as over the years he has drowned out those thoughts telling him he should do more with his life with the help of alcohol and his friends at the pub, and he now regrets it. He doesn't want Parrot to go through the same pain he is now feeling, and he doesn't want him to take the same road in life as he did. There is a clear age difference between the two of them, and he thinks that Parrot still has time to leave the island and make something of his life. But why doesn't he just tell Parrot the truth? Why doesn't he just tell him he should leave and start a new life before it's too late? Maybe he has tried that before, maybe he knows that Parrot won't listen to him. He now sees his evenings of drinking alcohol at the pub for what they are, a way of forgetting about reality and shutting it out. And he knows that Parrot probably deep down senses he should leave and find a better life for himself, but as long as he has a reason to stay, he will continue to ignore the truth. And Colm is one of the main things keeping Parrot in Inisherin, so he attempts to convince Parrot that he doesn't want anything to do with him in an attempt to make him realise he should leave. Once Parrot's sister leaves Inisherin, he begins to feel more lonely, and this loneliness begins to turn to resentment and anger, and he finds himself becoming like the other islanders. He mostly aims his anger at Colm, who he feels owns it to him to be his friend. Colm finally sees some passion and assertiveness in Parrot, and he thinks this is a good thing, because he thinks this is the passion that may lead Parrot to leave the island. He doesn't say this, instead he tells Parrot that it makes him more interesting. This in turn leads Parrot to think that being rude and angry to Colm will solve this problem, which is not the conclusion Colm was hoping Parrot would come to. Colm realises that Parrot will not give up so easily when he learns that he lied to the out-of-town musician to get him to leave the island, which is largely out of his character to do so. Colm then decides to cut off 4 more fingers to show Parrot that he is serious. However, there is an unfortunate turn of events when Parrot's beloved donkey chokes to death on one of the fingers. In the final scene of the film, Parik says that the two of them won't be even until Colm dies, and they have now become enemies until their death. They are two best friends who have now become enemies, and this is representative of their life stories, because by being each other's best friends throughout their lives, they have kept each other from ever leaving the island, as their friendship brought them meaning into their lives, to not leave Inisherin and seek a new life. This, however, has meant that they never followed any of their dreams or started a family, which means that they are destined to die lonely and unfulfilled, and therefore, by being each other's best friends, they have also been each other's worst enemies. Another interesting character in the film is the old lady, who is a banshee and predicts when death is coming. However, I think in this film she represents depression, and I think Carl Jung's quote on depression fits her character very well. Carl Jung said, "Depression is like a woman in black. If she turns up, don't shoo her away. Invite her in, offer her a seat, treat her like a guest, and listen to what she wants to say." I believe what Carl Jung was saying is that if you feel you are becoming depressed or you are depressed, you shouldn't try to distract yourself or ignore it. Instead, you should acknowledge the fact that you are depressed and try to figure out why that is and what is missing from your life. Siobhan, Parik's sister, invites the old lady to her house and treats her like a guest. This represents her coming to terms with the fact that she's not happy with her life, and she comes to the conclusion that she needs a change and decides to leave Inisherin. Parik, on the other hand, constantly avoids the old woman and doesn't want to talk to her. This is because he is avoiding the truth, which is that he is not happy with his life and he needs a change. He would rather continue to distract himself from this truth by going to the pub with his friend. However, by not talking to him, Colm has made this truth harder to ignore, just like the old lady, who becomes harder to ignore for Parik as the film goes on. So that is my interpretation of this film. Thank you for watching, and let me know what you think in the comments below.